Here that now good people are being persecuted. In the past, wicked people were killed and massacred by invaders, and now good people are being massacred by invaders. We don't understand why. And we also see in the past that God was not really on the side of people who were fighting to establish their kingdom. God wasn't on their side. They were putting their faith in the sword rather than in the Lord, and God wasn't really happy about that. And he left them to fight their own battles as a result in the end. But here we have a restoration of something like God is on the side of these Maccabees, it seems. What did the Maccabees do which is different from everyone else prior to them in the Bible? Well, the Maccabees do, which is different, is that they start by purifying their own house. They get their house in order. They take the plank out of their own eye first before they examine the splinter in the others. We hear about the first person who was attacked by the Maccabees is not even a foreigner. It's not a Seleucid. It's not a Greek, but is a Jew who has secularized. The Maccabees went around attacking and dealing with the secularists amongst their own people, the wicked people amongst the children of Israel. They purified the children of Israel by killing the children of Israel. This is very interesting. This is very new. This is also why Maccabees is not very popular as a book. But what it's showing is that the purification has to start in the home. You don't go out there and kill the Canaanites when you yourselves are being wicked, right? That's not how it's going to work. You don't go out and kill the Philistines, Samson, while you yourself are behaving like a Gentile yourself. Samson is the kind of Jew that the Maccabees would have killed. That's what's going on here. It's a new thing. You've got to purify the house first. And once you've purified the house, God will give you victory over your enemies. That's what's happening now. And the blood of the saints, which has been killed by your enemies, those innocent people who are holy men who are being killed by the enemies, is working as an expiation for you. The blood of the saints is covering you. You are fighting for them. You're inspired by them. Something new, very, very new, which is happening here in the book of Maccabees. And another thing which is new in the book of Maccabees is that we learn also from Josephus as well. He's also really important for reading if you want to study the history. But again, Josephus is kind of influenced by the Nehemiah Chronicles sort of version of events, and he kind of sanitizes and doctors the history a bit, but still very useful for understanding. Nevertheless, what happens again with the Maccabees, another new thing, is that they start to absorb nations without killing them into themselves. They only attack the people who are against them. And if you're not against them, you're for them. They don't consider you to be enemies if you're not actively trying to destroy Jewish culture. That's a different thing. Whereas previously, the warriors would go out and attack all nations who didn't submit to them here and kill them as enemies because they didn't do things the way they did things. Here, the Maccabees are saying, we're not against you all. We're only against you if you're against us. Otherwise, we would like to restore our kingdom, and we're going to make you part of our people. We're not going to kill you and burn down your temples and everything. We're going to convert you to Judaism. And they do a conversion, mass conversions of everybody in Nabatea and Edom. Mass conversions. And in fact, as a result of those mass conversions, we have Herod the king, who is an Edomian who comes back later. That's very curious because Edom, Herod the king, is a wicked king, but he is an Edomian, and he's finally, Edom is finally on the throne of the Jews. It's a very interesting thing, which is a fulfillment of prophecy as well. Amongst the descendants of Herod comes somebody much later called Herod Agrippa II, who is actually in Jewish stories and in the book of Acts 2 referred to as converting to Christianity, and he becomes like a first Edomian king of the Jews who is a Christian. Very interesting. And then he's also the last king of the Jews, and he was the last king of the Jews was actually Christian. It's very interesting. So there's something is happening here. But this is because they are being absorbed into the kingdom of Maccabees through conversion to Judaism. But what kind of Judaism are we talking about? I mean, you can't just convert people just like that. It's not easy to just convert a whole nation. How did the Maccabees convert these whole nations? What they did is they said, well, the whole nation is now conquered. They are now conquered people, which are called Netinim. And as conquered people, we will free them all and make them into Netinim. Just the same by making them into Noahides. So if we consider them to be Noahides and Netin as conquered people, then they become part of our greater Edah of Israel. So they used something called Yichus in order to convert these nations of Edom and Nabatea. And this is very interesting because Edom was in Nabatea at that time, Petra, Nabatea, and Nabatea is named after Nebiot, who is the firstborn son of Ishmael. Ishmael is a donkey, and Nebiot is the firstborn donkey, the Petach Hamor, which is the name we use for this channel as well. And the Petach Hamor, the firstborn donkey, is very important because the Messiah is supposed to come riding on the donkey. He comes riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. And so what we start to see is the new thing that God is doing is bringing about Noahide Judaism through Nebiot, through the Nabateans, the donkey. And the Messiah is riding in on a donkey. It's actually about Noahide Judaism. The thing which the Jews have been failing to do from the beginning is to absorb these non-Jews into their Edah under the Netin Yichus. That is what they've been failing to do all this time. To accept them as Noahides and say you don't have to get circumcised and keep all the laws. You just simply have to keep the 7 basic laws which were revealed through Noah. And so this is how the new thing comes about. But is the new thing accepted? No, it's not accepted. We also learn that along comes Ananias Alexander, who abolishes Pharisaical Judaism, scribal Judaism, and he wants to push Sadduceeism instead, which means a return to the wickedness of the kings of Israel. And the Pharisees are sent into exile, but they come back. And this is the beginning of a split in the 2 schools of Pharisees. You've got the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel, but this happens in the time of Ananias Alexander, where Ananias Alexander's wife is sister to Shimon ben Shetach, and she protects the Pharisees. And Ananias Alexander prefers the ways of Judah ben Tabai, which is the Sadducean sort of way. And so you've got the split between the school of Shimon ben Shetach and the school of Judah ben Tabai is the origin of the split between the school of Hillel and the school of Shammai. The school of Shammai takes over, and people are not interested in following the way of the school of Hillel, which is all about making Noahides of the nations, and starts to want to circumcise everybody and make them keep the law. So instead of continuing to convert Nabatea according to Noahide Judaism, instead they start trying to convert them according to Sadducee Judaism, circumcising them and making them keep all the law, which is exactly what happens to Herod Herod the Great. He is the example of what happens when instead of following the scribes and the Pharisees, you start following the Sadducees instead. And so a wicked form of Judaism starts to raise its head again, and they kill the representative of the school of Hillel, that is Jesus of Nazareth, but it survives and comes back and overthrows the Sadducean way once and for all. It is abolished forever and is restored the way of the school of Hillel, the school of Shimon ben Shetach, the school of the scribes and the Pharisees, who Jesus of Nazareth tells his disciples to follow. Obey the scribes and the Pharisees. Don't do what they're doing. Don't copy Judaism the way they do it, but you must obey the scribes and the Pharisees. So that's how it starts. That's how it goes. So the new thing, which has been promised all this time, is the way of the scribes and the Pharisees, the way of Hillel, the way of Jesus, the school of Hillel, the way of school of Shimon ben Shetach. That is the new thing. And it starts to take over the world. How? Through Christianity, through Islam. And billions of people come that way. But at the end, there must be a release of the wickedness, again, which is called Gog, who comes back to try and destroy everything which has been established by the new way over the past 1,000 years or so. But we hear that this powerful message of Noahide Judaism is the thing which is going to destroy Gog in the end as well. And so that the Sadducee Gog movement will not prevail. That those genetically, I am the descendant of Israel, therefore I am holy, I have holy blood, I'm a deity, worship me. That attitude of Gog and his armies will not prevail. That Noahide Judaism is the truth which will abolish their way, as long as we remember the path of Noahide Judaism and the story of the Bible which we just explained. And that is how it's going to conclude. Now, the armies of Gog march across the planet, the face of the earth right now, and they try to undo all of the good which has been established by the rule of law, the rule of justice, the concept of human rights, and all the things which we've been established over the past 1,000 years, thanks to, Bible believers. All of this is going to be trying to be undone by Gog right now. They're going to try and undo the whole thing and establish themselves as kind of gods over the planet instead. But they will not prevail if we remember the story of the Bible, which we just studied today. And that is how we're going to succeed, by reminding them, yikus. Their yikus is not good enough. Something which you're not familiar with, but you've got to know about it. Their yikus is not good enough to be gods, divine children of God. That's not how it is. In fact, David himself was a Moabite, and his yikus was not good. His yikus, if you say they say, oh, that's a terrible yikus, because these people are very, very obsessed with yikus. Yeah, they're obsessed with yikus in the wrong way. They say, oh, you're not pure, you're not a real Israelite. We're real Israelites. We have the great yikus. But you got to turn it around and say, well, the greatest one amongst you you love to boast about all the time is David, and David's yikus was a Moabite yikus. That is a Noahide yikus. So the Noahide yikus trumps your yikus. And your yikus, if you claim to be a son of David, is not even the high, pure Israelite yikus. It's actually the yikus of the Moabites. So this understanding yikus, which is something which has been buried, understanding yikus, understanding Noahide Judaism, understanding the difference between the Kehillah and the Eda, is how we are going to destroy the armies of Gog. That's how we're going to do it. That's the fire from heaven which is going to destroy them. And after we've destroyed them, we'll give them burial place in Israel. Because destroying them is the same way that the locust army was destroyed when Joel was talking about. Remember when we talked about Joel and his prophecy? He saw the locust army and they were destroyed. And how? It was the story of Esther. And how were they destroyed? They were converted. Read the story of Esther. The Persians were converted to Judaism, which is where you get the Mizrahi Jews from today. Oh, they love to say that they're Jews, they're pure Israelites. You have to remind them, no, you're not. You're converted Persians. You're Persians who converted in the time of Esther. It was Esther's story where you were converted. So that's how we're going to do it. When you convert them, you destroy their army. The army is destroyed through conversion. This is when Peter says, he sees the sheet of paper, the sheet of parchment come down from heaven, all the animals on it, and he hears the voice says, kill and eat. He says, I've never eaten anything impure, Lord. He says, do not call anything that God has created impure. Kill and eat. He doesn't understand this until he realizes, it refers to Cornelius. I have to convert these people. We have to go and convert all the nations to Noahide Judaism. That's how we kill the nations. That's how we wage war. We wage war by conversion. This was always the message of the Bible. This is why the Judges period went so wrong, because after being given the highland, they were supposed to go and kill in the spiritual sense, convert the Canaanites, but they failed to do so. But if you get the message, the way we kill is by converting people, then you'll understand how we do it. So killing and destroying the armies of Gog with the fire from heaven means converting them to Noahide Judaism. And that is why it's possible to give them, as Ezekiel tells us, a burial place in the land of Israel. We can give them a burial place in the land of Israel means a place in the world to come. That's what it means in Judaism. If you get a burial place in the land of Israel, it means you have received a promise of a place in the world to come. You receive eternal life. So by killing the armies of Gog and burying them in Israel, they actually are getting a place in the world to come. It doesn't mean we kill them with the sword, but we kill them with the Lord. We slay them in the spirit. We slay them with the word. We slay them with the word. And this is how we beat our swords into plowshares. We make our weapons into things of peace. The tools of peace actually are our weapons. The tools of peace are our weapons. That's what's happened to the tools of the tools of war. The tools of war become actually tools of peace. So we go out there and we convert them with the fire from heaven, which says Noahide Judaism, and that is how they will get the burial place in the world, in the land of Israel. That's how they get the place in the world to come, and the world will be a much better place. But we must recognize that they do not fight the same way we do. They literally want to exterminate us. They did it before in the Holocaust, and they're going to try and do it again. There is a lot of that going on in the world right now. But we have to resist, and we have to point out the problem with their way of thinking, with their idolatry of DNA. They idolize DNA. But God's seed is a religion, not DNA. God's seed is a religion, and the religion is Messianic Noahide Judaism, and that's how we are going to save the world. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed reading the Bible as a story and the story that the Bible tells you, how you order the books to get that. So I'll just summarize it one more time for everybody out there, so you have more than one reference to this. It is the book of Genesis first, followed by Job, then Exodus, then Leviticus, then Numbers, then Deuteronomy, then Joshua, then Judges, then Ruth, then Samuel 1, then the book of Psalms, then Samuel 2, then Proverbs, then Wisdom, then 1 Kings, then the Song of Songs, then Kohelet, that's Ecclesiastes, and then Hosea, then Jonah, then Amos, then Micah, then Isaiah, then Judith, then 2 Kings, then Zephaniah, then Habakkuk, then Tobit. As I told you, it's very important not to omit these apocryphal books, otherwise you're missing the plot devices. Then Nahum, then Ezekiel, then Jeremiah, then Obadiah, then Lamentations, then Baruch, then Daniel, then Zechariah, then Haggai, then Ezra, then Nehemiah, then Chronicles 1 and 2, or you can do 1 and 2 Chronicles before Nehemiah, but about the same time as Nehemiah, you have to put them all together. Then Malachi, then Joel, then Esther, then Sirach, then Maccabees 1, then Maccabees 2, and then the New Testament. And that's it. That's how you do it. All right, then I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please click like and subscribe, and do keep in touch. So you can send me messages if you want to have more information, if you want me to make a video, a particular thing on this topic. Remember, this is a missionary channel, and although we do